All right, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours number 62 here. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a consultant with Aperio and Salesforce MVP and head up the MVP Office Hours. If you have not been on MVP Office Hours before, it's really just like the Answers community but live. We have MVPs on the call, and we're going to try to answer your questions as best as we can or point you in the right direction. So because it is an open forum, we just ask you to mute your line while people are talking. That way it's easy to hear and answers and questions. You can either speak up during a dead spot, you can raise your hand, or you can post in the chat and we'll get to your question as soon as we can. So with that being said, we have a couple MVPs on the call with us today. Pretty sure I can pick out the two that are on here. We'll just have you guys introduce yourself, who you work for, and and your area of expertise. So,
you want us just to kick it off, Jared?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Brian Kwong. I'm also known as the Salesforce Wizard, or the weird guy that walks around with the wizard hat at Salesforce Functions. I work with Better Partners as the Vice President of Operations and Delivery. I'm kind of a general all mixture of admin, dev specialist, but my newfound focus and love is process builder and flow.
Awesome. Jackie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, fantastic. This is Jackie Travieso. I'm MVP as well. I'm out of South Carolina, just on the South and North Carolina border, outside of Charlotte. I generally work with small and startup companies, getting them off and running with their lead count contact opportunities and things like that, and then some App Exchange products as well. So that's kind of my arena.
Awesome. And I don't see any other MVPs on the call. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We already have a question in the chat here. Mary has a question on contact campaign members. Mary, what's your question?
Good afternoon. Good morning to everybody. We use campaign members, and when you've got leads as campaign members, it's really easy to observe how well the sales reps have engaged with those leads to see if they've converted them, whatever. But when we've got contacts that are campaign members, we have not been able to figure out an effective way for identifying whether or not a sales rep has engaged with that contact to then move them forward and hopefully then create an opportunity. Just was wondering if anybody has any experience in that and any ideas on how we can more effectively track that.
So I'm going to ask you a question. When you're dealing with contacts, what is your definition of a salesperson engaging with that person?
Well, we want to know, number one, that they have engaged with them, that they're ideally they would do some kind of an activity that would help us know. But there isn't really. So on our leads, we have a status, and we have them change the status from need to nurture, and that's their signal to us that they're nurturing that lead. We don't have the same concept on a contact record, so it would be engaging with them. And then to effectively track the ROI on a campaign, you'll also have to make sure that that opportunity is tied to a contact, via contact roles, and so just we don't have a good way to monitor or police that they're doing that if they do in fact create an opportunity once they've engaged with that contact.
Okay. Well, there's a couple different things kind of floating around. So if you're looking to try to get from the campaign status to be able to figure out, or from the campaign member to figure out if the contact has been engaged, you're kind of in pseudo land because a contact can be on technically multiple opportunities, and there's really no good way for the data to flow. So one option that you may want to do is just have recreate your status field on the contact and add it as part of the process for your sales team to say, look, when you're working with with a contact on a sale, you need to go update the status so you can inform marketing of the information so we can make sure we're helping you out and whatever that is. In regards to making sure that your opportunities actually have contact roles assigned to it, if they're going from creating the opportunity from a lead, and that is also creating a contact that typically adds the contact role to the opportunity for the salesperson. If they're creating the opportunity off the fact, like off the account tab or the opportunity tab, you're kind of stuck there too because there's no way to really write a validation rule or anything off of contact rows to see whether or not an opportunity has a contact row. You can fudge it a little bit with some embedded Visualforce pages, but that's usually kind of more complicated for people. The best thing I've seen people do is you remove the new opportunity button from the account, and you train the salespeople to say, look, if you're going to create a new opportunity that's not from a lead, you have to create it from the contact page, because you can pass over as a URL hack a little attribute that will let you take them to the new opportunity page, and when they save it, it will also create the contact row. The only issue I have with that is that URL hacks are not technically supported by Salesforce, so that solution could eventually break. You could do something similar, but it kind of requires you using a non-standard Salesforce layout where you can have a button on the contact that essentially calls, say, a visual workflow or a flow, and that's the process that will create the opportunity and then associate that contact as a contact row. Those are the ideas I have off the top of my head. I don't know if anyone's got any other ideas.
Yeah, I would be along that same line.
Brian? was that Brian that just responded?
Yes.
Okay. And you pretty much summed up all of the hurdles that I've encountered. So I'm glad I'm not missing something obvious. So the URL hack, I know you are a huge proponent of the visual flows and processes. So that we've got that functionality, would you prefer that over the URL hack?
So because URL hacks are not officially supported by Salesforce, and so you run the risk of them breaking, I try to avoid URL hacks whenever possible. But there are some things where, depending on your requirements, you simply can't get away from them. So it kind of really depends on how big is your opportunity. Can you get away with maybe prompting them for just a handful of key fields that they could use Flow to fill in, and not have to go through the normal edit page of the opportunity? Or if you have a lot of fields that you need people to fill in at the time that they're creating the opportunity, then you're kind of stuck with that. And then you're looking at maybe using either Apex or Visualforce or something to kind of put that information in. If you want information on the URL hack, I just happened to have done a blog post about that yesterday. And you can find that at thewizardnews.com. I include an example URL of how the URL hack would work on the assumption that it's a custom button on the contact.
Okay.
It does work, but like I said, it's not supported, so it could break sometime in the future. I'm going to be playing around and see, can I try to duplicate this with maybe a publisher action off of the contact, or maybe a flow. But the problem I have with that is if you got salespeople who, we'll just say, are not really flexible when it comes to change, they could get really mixed up when you suddenly take them away from that standard look and feel when you create a new opportunity record and put them into a different process like Flow, because the UI the interface just does not look the same.
Right. Okay.
But
And
yeah, I mean,
do
if I
subscribe
can make Flow work, I would prefer Flow over the URL hack.
Okay. I do subscribe to you, but I don't think I've seen the note about your blog. So I'll go find it. Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully it works.
Anybody else have other ideas to pursue?
I don't. I think that's a good avenue to go down.
I agree.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Karen has a question. What do you suggest for planning in Salesforce? For example, if sales rep need to choose accounts to target each quarter. So account planning, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's mine.
Okay.
I've done this two ways. First, just to make it simple for the reps, I've put checkboxes that I have to do them every quarter on the account page, and then I use inline editing on the custom lists for them to just check off which ones they want to choose. The other way I've done it is to have a related list, a custom object as a related list on the account. But that seems to be too much work for them to go in and create a record from there rather than just checking a box. So I just wanted to know if anybody had any suggestions on planning, the planning aspect in Salesforce, and how to choose records to then run reports on against plan versus actually what happened. I mean, I do it a lot for account planning, and then I track their activity. I have formula fields to track all that. But I'm really kind of tired of putting a field on the account every quarter and naming it. So I have all these these checkbox fields for every quarter that I then have to put on and take off, and it's really manual. I know there's got to be a better way. Anyone?
Do you have specific criteria that you can pull from the account record itself to say this is the one we're targeting? Is it based on any information that lives on the account?
Well, I put a checkbox every quarter on there that says, okay, this checkbox is for this quarter is now on there. You can check it if that's an account that you're going to choose for the next quarter. It's just it's basically the planning aspect of the team going, this is what I plan. These are the accounts I plan to visit and connect with. And
so they're telling you which accounts they're going to go after.
Exactly. By checking the box that I put on there every quarter.
And how do they determine which ones they're going after?
I don't know. They have to choose 36 of them every quarter, and so I put the checkbox on there for them to decide which ones they want to do. It's basically saying, of all my accounts, which ones am I going to target? They have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 accounts. So the tier 1 accounts they have to target every month. So they're going to be on there automatically. So those are going to be on there automatically. I know that. There's some that are automatically going to be chosen for that quarter. But I guess my question is, how do I determine, without having to put a checkbox on there every quarter,